Hey, good morning, guys. Ken at Tortoise Capital. This is the Creativity 202 check-in for September 17th, 2023. Appreciate your patience. The previous Foundations Q&A had about a 40-minute rant on discretion versus certainty and tied together almost every large concept that I'm teaching to include risk management, sniper entries and exits, trade frames, risk boxes, fractal patterns, uh, frog boxes, gain stat, fail stat. So I actually think it's worth a listen to. What I got to do is turn those into a standard set of readable briefing slides so that the scribbling is not as distracting. But there's something correct and proper about the scribbling in the moment because I seem to need that in order to string together the thoughts because the rational part of my brain is looking at the white space and the things that I've drawn and the next drawing that I'm getting ready to do to control my hands. And I actually need that to be occupied with the construction of the doodle in order to free the inner maniac to feel the words and find the ideas that need to be put into words next. So it's that amount of structure, the doodle structure, I think, is what is freeing up the creative spark because I'm not staring at it, wondering where the words are coming from. My spider sense is that if that were writer's block, what's the equivalent for it's probably speaker's block or stage fright. What gets me over the stage fright is the great big white canvas and the pen, which then allows for the my inner monkey knows, oh, you are free to draw whatever you want to draw any way you want to draw it because you can't draw it wrong. You're just drawing in the same way that a drummer can't play the drum wrong. They just played the beat that they played. And that was a perfect reflection of what was inside. So the drawing unblocks the channel. So now the visual element and the auditory element are testing the word. I'm seeing the picture, but that really is doing is enticing the shy person inside me to find the words to say. That's what I learned when I took the brain mode power test and I discovered I was an auditory learner or an auditory processor. It's the words have to sound right. And then it gets expressed visually. So I thought I was a visual person, but really the deep underlying integrator, the understander, is auditory. So it's the sound of the next phrase. I'm checking that just before I launch it. So as I'm taking this pause, I actually see the next phrase and feel the next phrase and hear the next phrase that's loaded up and ready to go, testing it for final check before releasing it into the public. The rational mind is what inhibits that. Social fear, fear of getting it wrong, and all that stuff. And it's the power of the pen to be able, that drawing it, said it's okay, you can let that out. We'll just fix the drawing. It's just a doodle anyway. And that seems to be the pulling the plug on the creative release. So when I was going through the life audit tapestry, when I was going through that process during the heart surgery, that was very much the image that was in my mind, was that just a really rough doodle of a theater with a stage left, stage right, stage deep, which was an infinitely expanding placeholder space where I could, as I unpack things that were unfolding on the stage and being scribed and doodled, I could take that chunk and just put it into an open space and then draw the connections to all the other things that have been drawn. I could sample and understand the relationship and how things tied together under no pressure to make it right, simply just to put it, document it, put it into that space, make the connections. And a mosaic or a tapestry doesn't have a correct form, it only has the form that emerged. And the yarn simply ties it together, each and every little piece. Well, that image is what allowed me to kind of go through that 4-day process, 18 to 20 hours a day, of unpacking all these life stories that I wanted to revisit and reconcile and make new sense of and get it all sorted out. And so when I come back to Earth and I look at what I just did with all those doodles at the end, I said, what a dog's breakfast that is. What a bowl of spaghetti, and I'm just trying to tease out individual noodles and strands. And why don't I just render that into a pure, clean note? And when I end up making the drawings enough, I do. And sometimes the doodle is good enough, like that, the mill sketch on the backdrop there, it was good enough that the doodle is okay. But I need to, it seems to me that's where this is appropriate for Creativity 202, is that was the moment of Zen that I just had this morning about my creative process and popping the cork. You shake that mother up and pop the cork and see where it goes, but with some confidence that I can draw the picture of the scatter plot of all those concepts as they come out. And then the more you do that, the tighter and tighter the integration of the disparate pieces were. Like, I've never given that speech in 40 minutes in that way that tied together Frogbox, MMRB, Rangestat, R10, RL10, high and low of the day, green, yellow, red zone, fail stat, gap stat, swing and day trading, fractal patterns, emerging dragon, all of those things, I think, in one story thread. And I think it's only that's where I think the sketching and the creation of artifacts allows you to do that, which is why I'm big on the importance of making artifacts as part of your true storytelling process. You know, Jeff, I'm thinking of the sketches that you've made and some of those imageries and the icons. And Kyun, when you commit to writing things down in your journal and documenting it in writing, it takes on a real power that frees up space inside of you, even if only temporarily, for new things to come in. The artifact allows you to create space internally. Now, maybe all that happens is that the tide flows back in, it's the same things come back. Maybe you just then re-internalize the artifact and it takes up that, fills in that space nicely. But my sense is that when you have a good enough artifact, it condenses things down into a diamond of understanding that is very space efficient. And you can call upon that tool in the future to be very efficient about getting back into a mind state, taking the next step in your routine process. The creation of artifacts is what gives you the power of leverage through tools. The artifact is a tool, and that's what we are, is that we are pattern making, pattern seeking, tool making tool using monkeys whose tools shape who we are, and what, because it allows us to do things that we do, which tells you that we are embodied minds, that what we do is who we are, and that the tools allow us to do more of that. So that's the importance of making those artifacts. And that's what, to me, is doing the work in Creativity 202, doing the exercises, doing the lessons, and documenting it. That's where the power of the course is. It's only by doing that that you actually are creating the mirror to look at yourself. And the better the mirror, the better the person in the mirror, because you're becoming more of your ideal self. And the better you make the mirror, the better you can make the adjustments to self-improve. So all of that is tied into the actions you take and documenting it with accountability. The artifact is your accountability. There's a reason they both start with A, I guess. The artifact is the accountability to yourself. It's evidence to yourself that you are serious about what you're doing. It also becomes the thing that you share with others in your accountability partner. And maybe the accountability partner, the sense of commitment and duty that you have to your accountability partner not to waste their time, is what gives you the extra spark to complete the artifact for your own work. So you're using the power and importance of your accountability partner to force yourself to do the work that you know you need to do. Maybe that's why we cherish those guys so much, because we invest that feeling in the respect that we have for our accountability partner is such that it makes us want to be a better person. So that's my sense of why artifacts is what completes the circuit. You know, that's the missing piece that allows the electricity to flow, the electricity of your story to flow from start to finish for that cycle. And I guess that's why electricity is measured in cycles. How many, whatever it is, kilohertz and cycles and all that stuff. So needed to get that out of my head. So that's my work in progress this week. Aho. I'm going to hit the tones and then check in with you real quick. And good morning. Give us a check-in and your work in progress, I suppose. Or let's just check in. Let's see. How are you doing, Jeff? I'll go in the order I
I'm
see
doing
you.
great. Yeah, one of my rare days off, so I had a great night's sleep. Found the best cup of coffee in town. Had a good breakfast. So yeah, life is good.
You're rocking that good haircut, the proper haircut.
You know, the strange thing is, my days off are every other Sunday, Monday. Barbers are off on Sunday,
Sunday, Monday.
Monday. Can't get a haircut, so I gave up and went to. I bought a pair of clippers, for the price of a haircut, and
Hey,
just took care of it. I just
let me
got
tell you.
tired of it.
Let me tell you what works. Remington makes a beard tool that has a wide. It's about 2/3 of the width of a hair cutting set, but it's rechargeable and it has an onboard vacuum.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah, I didn't get the vacuum, but I got
it's
something
called yeah.
similar to what you're describing.
So Remington makes it. It costs about $30. The charge lasts for 10 haircuts, and it has a little dial on it that raises and lowers it. And it has 20 increments. and it has two different plastic heavy duty blades that lock into place, and it's substantial, so you don't have to.
Oh,
And you can set that thing equal to like half steps. It has 10 different settings, and then yeah, so it has 10 settings, but it has a half step, so it actually has 20 different settings. And then it comes with two guides. One of them is sort of the close guide, and one is the far guide. So you actually get 40 different settings of length. And so I dial that thing in, and I know exactly the length that suits my hair, how long it can grow before it starts. Like my hair will grow 3 inches straight out before it ever starts laying down, so I never let it get that long. I can't because it looks like a dandelion. So I've dialed that thing in, and the little vacuum allows me to have a haircut at home without driving my wife crazy because of making the mess that I make every 2 weeks. And that's about it's a 5 or 10 minute haircut that I can't get wrong. So the Remington beard trimmer with vacuum. I bought 3 of them in case they raise the price or stop making them. Because I had another one that Remington also made. Oh no, I'm sorry. Remington makes one that's a hair trimmer with a cord, which is okay, but it's freaking Black and Decker. Black and Decker makes this thing for the beard with the. And you're a beard wearing guy, so even if you just did it for that, it's $30. You can't go wrong. So anyway, that's what I would say. You look good. A haircut is the best way to look like you lost 10 pounds anyway. It's easier than losing 10 pounds. And good morning, Kyun. How are you doing, sir?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Ken, good to see you. I haven't seen you since your surgery.
Yeah,
So it's good to be here. Good that you're looking well. You're full of energy. I can tell you're already up for the foundations. And
yeah,
you sent that email out about how you were doing on progress. So always glad to hear that.
yeah.
And yeah, I caught the foundations. I mean, turning up here is like, you get answers to questions that you didn't know you have, including, Black and Decker, you know.
There you're right.
but
Yeah,
the
yeah,
foundations,
yeah. Don't miss the meeting. That's why you never know who's going to show up.
absolutely. But the foundations thing that I caught, I think I want to catch the replay because that's my work in progress as well. This week I was I have some issues with the trade. I can show you a chart later, but which actually probably is an extension of what you were talking about. Fail stat, game stat. I got all
Yeah,
that. So it absolutely hit the spot. I need to watch the replay because I didn't catch all of it.
yeah,
So yeah, so great to be here, and yeah, thanks.
yeah. What it gave me is a chance to think about what I mean by the 80% of the things I think you got to know about your target that constitute all the pieces and parts of the trade frame, which is responsible for the 80% of your results. It started off as a discussion of what was the discretion. Ken, I notice sometimes you make this exit here and other times you don't. Well, which one is it? Well, it's both of them, and it's what discretion means. My discretion I defined as the 12-year-old kid. If it if I could reduce it into the rule set that I did all the time, it would be part of the 80% mechanical side, and so what's left, that final exit, the discretionary exit, is if it's not the PSAR, that's the area of discretion that's left. So yeah, Greg, real quick, say hi.
Hey, thanks. Thanks for letting me listen. Things have been a little stressful, but powering through it and going to review that foundations call a couple of times for sure. So thank you.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to hit the tones and move us into the sacred circle there, and then invite you guys to go for it. Ready? Here we go. Let me fix that. Kyun, grind away.
All right, hi everybody. It's good to be back here again with everybody else. So now we're at lesson 28, high performance creativity, I think. Quite interesting. So creativity reaches peak performance under just the right amount of pressure. I kind of recently I've been getting these reels or whatever you call it on Instagram, and there's this is supposed to be ex-CIAs talking about how high performing people had the right amount of trauma, I think is what he called it, in childhood, and he kind of went on to describe um, what's the right amount. So you can't have no amount, but then you can't have too much where you shut down. So
Yeah,
I
did
think
you say Gabor Mate? Is that who you're listening to?
I actually don't know. I maybe it could be. It's just Instagram now is so random.
Because
It throws up
I listened
something.
to him a lot on
It
childhood
could be,
trauma.
yeah.
He's the best. He's the best guy I've ever heard
Okay.
talk about dealing with childhood trauma, where it comes from. He's a MD and he works with addicts. He
Right.
was a from Hungary and they were refugees, and he is spellbinding. Gabor Mate, Mate, works in Vancouver, and just boy, he's good for the soul.
I've heard the name, so
Yeah,
yeah, I'll check
I'm
him
wondering
out.
that reminded. I was struck with a strong image of that guy, and even if you're not listening to him, but you find that area interesting,
Yeah.
he has a lot to do with forgiveness and understanding, self forgiveness too. And boy, is he ever human. His son is the award winning journalist Aaron Mate, who reports on world events at the Gray Zone, who's an amazing journalist uh, and is worth listening to, too. So it's an interesting father son act.
Right,
Gabor
there you
Mate.
go. And
Hey,
another
I'm sorry. Yeah, back to you. I interrupted your flow, but I
yeah,
had
no,
to know.
no problem. Yeah, so I think so. I did the exercise. So I'm just going to jump to it and go to my work in progress because I did the exercise. Exercise one was about identifying unpredictable environment, natural or artificial, and enter into and practice dissociating, which is quite interesting. I think the last time I did this was during one of Dr. Van Tharp's workshop. Can't remember which one it was. I remember that I'm not particularly. Anyway, I think what they did was, they asked you to enter into an image, and they said, how do you see it? Are you seeing out of your own eyes, or are you seeing yourself? Which is like a dissociated state, and we practice that. So I'm not naturally one where I see myself like in a dissociated manner, but I thought so I put myself in the kind of situation, and I actually can't remember what it was. I didn't write it down, but I remember feeling a bit better once you've dissociated. I think that the challenge for me is when it's a really stressful situation and you're in it, can I actually do that? And how will I feel then? So that's the challenge for me. But I guess practice is practice. If you keep practicing it, it'll come easier with time. And then one of the kind of insights, I suppose, that jumped up while I was doing this exercise and I was going through this lesson was, I had this insight that says, you've got to go out and be with other people, however uncomfortable and unpleasant the situations. This being a big city and London, you can just go out and get shouted at or get some unpleasantness going on. And I've gone out less these days, that I don't feel like it. But then to flip it around, I thought this actually might be good for me because like no pressure is absolutely no pressure is not good, right? And so maybe I should just go out and get the unkindness. You make use of the unkindness and the things that annoy you, and just kind of deal with those and get used to being uncomfortable. So that was one of the insights. I exercise too. I didn't actually get around to doing because I don't have a superior, but I have an accountability group, so I might just do that. Use that as my superior. I gotta think of something. Maybe I'll answer Jeff's questions that he said. I'll say that to him and give myself some pressure. So it's a kind of Jeff will know. Actually you might know. Ken. It's the he said a systems questionnaire help. Um, so on my work in progress. So I think what I'm kind of have issues with is it's a actually if it okay, let me do this thing. I like the flashcard that you gave, which is the target with the 0 state. It's in the flashcard. I've been looking at that, looking for that for ages. So thank goodness I found it. I think it's really useful. But I think the questions I had when I looked at that was, do I keep firing even if I feel like a little anxious? Then which is normal every time you enter the trade. And what if I feel very anxious, but not panicking, somewhat in control, but do I keep firing if I see the pattern, or do I not trade? What do I do? Where am I? Is there something I need to do about that? I need to just pause for a second. Just 1 second. Okay, I'm back. Thanks. Sorry about that. Yeah, I think because I'm doing the kata challenge and I'm trying to follow the rules, and I think somehow my rhythm is a bit off from what I normally do. And I can't put my finger on it, except I feel more uncomfortable when I'm trying to force myself to like enter using the kata challenge, and there's a number of reasons I think for that, which I might get to that in a bit. Yeah, so that's one of the things. And now if I can just show you a chart, this is what I'm struggling with, because if I follow the rules like what you described, sometimes you get an SSC, you see an SSC, you get it, and then it kind of fails, and it kind of turns into a collapsing dragon, but doesn't really turn into a collapsing dragon, and then it just goes sideways for the rest of the day. And that is my biggest challenge, is how do I identify when not to trade, really, because sometimes there is no tradable pattern, or in my mind I don't think there is. So just give me 1 second. If I can share a chart which might illustrate this. Okay, share the screen. Okay, can you see a chart? I think this is Microsoft. Okay. It's good. Okay, I assume you can see the chart. Okay, cool. So one of the things I decided not to do was I said I wouldn't trade in the first half an hour, because it was just OR3 and everything was just too much for me. So that's why I wasn't in here. But I think this links in a little bit to your discussion just now, the one in foundations about that little part where it comes down and then there's this stop here, and probably I could have gone in here. But anyway, that having been said, I just decided I wouldn't do this piece thing down in the first half an hour. So that kind of leaves me with this, which is if this is an SSC, because that's going up, an SSC, but that fails. So I kind of took this collapsing dragon, and that actually didn't go anywhere. Then this looked like at the time it was forming, it looked like a Carter 2 that was gonna fail again, and didn't. So that got me out. And then this is a legitimate move, but in real time I missed this because I was having dinner or something, and I actually got him down here. So I caught that little bit. So I guess this, and then I went back, I replayed all this. This is a barber a replay function, and this is, I said, what if I actually traded exactly as the Carter 2 rules are telling me? And I actually ended up with a loss from minus 1.3 even after the fact, and still knowing, what, more or less what the pattern was. So this is my challenge here: is how do is it just this is normal part of trading losses? You got to take it on a chin and move on to the next trade, or is there something about this kind of sideways channel? There's no Z3 pinch you can see because otherwise it would have turned yellow. So that's not it. And I've tried a number of things, um, including what somebody told me about TPM, which is more or less this thing down here in this orange. It's very pinch and you try not to trade. Um, anyway, so that's my work in progress that I am offering out. I'm kind of struggling with this. And then I suppose the time with all the fail state and the gap state that you mentioned, I suppose I should mention this. So like in the open, so 200 is more or less a frog box. So it's open inside the frog box, and then it moves out of it. Is that good
Yep.
enough for me
Yep.
to?
That's a short.
That's a short there.
Yep.
Okay.
If you
And
put
that's
a
what.
frog box, have it straddle the open. So
Okay.
if you put that box around the open, you take the breakout. So
Okay.
so
That's
if it
another
moves
way.
half a frog box in one direction, you're in,
Okay. Well, that's another
and
way.
and that's almost, and the OR3, uh, go go to the second bar. Yeah,
Second. Wait, that's the
yeah,
frog box. So you say straddle that.
yeah.
So that's the open.
So
So
at the
that.
bottom of that box, that's
Yeah.
the OR3 entry, ish.
Okay. Okay.
Now, so that's tradable. Now go to the first yellow dot.
This one.
So that's a Kata 2
Attitude. Yeah.
short. That one
Yes.
should not lose money,
Yeah. It didn't. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And where the let me see what your setting is on the. What is your setting on the PSAR? That looks
Ooh,
correct.
I
Yeah,
actually
yeah.
don't
So
know
so the if the second yellow dot is your exit,
this one.
and the third yellow dot is your short,
Yes.
the exit on that one is where the PSAR flipped. See where the second yellow dot is also the exit, the stop and reverse
Uh-huh.
on the failure of the collapsing dragon.
Right.
So you should already be long where the fourth, 3 bars before this fourth yellow dot. And we shouldn't lose money on that trade.
So here.
And then on the fifth dot, yeah, you should be short, you should be long right around in there.
Okay.
And then go up to the leg 1, pause, leg 2. Now you're into a Z3 expansion. Keep going up. Now where that rolls over, notice that is lower than the previous peak of the big, yeah. So the fifth yellow dot is a short.
Mm-hmm.
And you could exit at the sixth yellow dot and then re-enter when that fails again. So there are tradable moves in there in the Kata too.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing I might say is that, in terms of the lunch hour,
Yeah,
from
which is
about the third yellow dot to the fifth yellow dot is probably your lunch hour, and yeah, 'cause
yes,
that's you're
yeah,
7 hours ahead.
yeah.
So if you don't take those trades because it's lunch, you're not wrong. Then your sixth yellow dot could be a short or a reentry, where you show the X. Yeah, keep going one more. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
either the first entry short after lunchtime, or it's a reentry because you exited and then re-entered. So
Yeah, sure.
that's but also I would say uh, the the big move 2 times out of 5, the open is within 10% of the high or the low of the day. This is an example of one of those. You have a significant gap and then a large directional move. That's not that is an unsurprising open hour. When you don't trade the first hour or half hour, you're never going to get those moves.
Mm.
The hybrid frog, which brackets the open, is searching for large gaps. The larger the gap, the more I want to trade the first half hour. Because the large gap signals a large move for the rest of the day. And that just might be the one that starts with the opening anchors the high or low of the day and off it goes. In this case, the open was the high of the day. And then all it did was move down the rest of the day. Most of that move happens in the first hour. And that's sort of what happens. What you hope is, if you are a guy that doesn't trade the first half hour or hour, is you hope that there's a second leg to the day. That all of the panic selling that happened in the first hour is going to result in a follow-through second leg. That's what, and I normally expect that to be half the size of the morning move. That's about what this one did. The second half, which starts from that breakdown, that's probably, if we measured that, that's probably half the size of leg one. And so it's half the size and takes twice as long because it's a grind.
Do you still see the screen? I changed it to the live.
Yeah, I still see your screen. Yeah.
So, the same. Yeah.
So that's when you start looking at the geometry of those moves, that's sort of like a normal, that's kind of a normal day. Big gap, large early move.
Yeah.
Afternoon move is a follow through of half the size in the same direction. That's kind of what that leads to. So the turning points in the dragon, the turning points in the RL10 are just your anchor points, and that's kind of a normal day, and it's not unusual to see. Now notice that the turning points in the dragon are smooth. The turning points in the RL10 are a little spikier, and there's more of them because you get some fakes. The third yellow dot, I just want you to notice that you should not be exiting at the fourth yellow dot. The third yellow dot, where you got short, was front running the collapsing dragon, and it didn't follow through.
Yeah.
And in fact, what you see is that the MACD went from red to yellow. The seasonality, if you look at the color coding on your RL10, it went red to yellow. So it had a higher low, and the color code went from red to yellow. That's actually an indicator that the CD doesn't work. So we should be long by the fourth dot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the kind of things.
That's one that should work right away. And if it doesn't, and see, if you take a look at the first big red move, and I should probably, the first big red move, and then it has the first recovery, the first retracement to the yellow hump. Go down, 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 down. Now keep going up, 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 and stop. That was the size of the first retracement from the bottom of the RL10 to that peak.
Yeah.
And now go east to the second yellow dot. Second yellow dot. So that's the next time that the RL10 rolls over.
Mm-hmm.
That is supposed to work right away, but it didn't. So I don't have extra belief in that because it's supposed to work right away, but it doesn't. Now I want you to notice between the first yellow dot and the second yellow dot, that's actually leg 2.
Mm-hmm.
right? From the
Yeah.
peak of the yellow hump down to the bottom of the red dot. Now that's leg 2. Notice that that's only about 1/3 of the size of the first leg. The first leg was that big cascading red from the
Mm-hmm.
open. See how big and painful the first leg was from the open
Yep.
down to
Yep.
the bottom.
Yeah.
The second leg down was only 1/3 in twice the time. So the downside is already starting to lose
Mm-hmm.
steam.
Right.
So when you put that collapsing dragon on at the third yellow dot, remember that thing is already losing energy. So
Yeah.
now more than ever, it's supposed to work right now, right away, in a big way, and it doesn't. It went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bars and never failed. So I don't even need 6 bars to tell me it didn't work. That thing better work right away or I'm out because it was already losing steam.
And the pizza never changed
Yeah,
as well. So
yeah,
that this bar I could have just
yeah,
okay,
right
that's
there.
not working right
It's
there.
like
Yeah.
a lottery ticket didn't work, and if it
Yeah.
failed to
Yeah.
fail,
Okay. Yeah.
now if it fails to fail, this is Microsoft. Is Microsoft going to go to zero? No. Was tech stronger than everything else this week? Yeah. Is that the old reliable? Yeah. So if I'm a hedge fund guy and I need to buy something, I don't know. Okay, maybe I could buy Microsoft on sale. It went from three. Microsoft in that move went from 340 at the close. Go to yesterday's close.
So, yeah. So,
Yeah, it went from 3. Go up a little bit. That's around 3 just for round numbers.
yeah.
340 down to your short at 332. That's $8 on 400 or 3. That's 2.5 to 3% in that morning move. Now, Microsoft is on sale for 3% off. Or it's going to lose another 3%. If it doesn't lose 3% right away, it's a buying opportunity. It's on sale. So that's the mindset you got to have. There's a shelf life to that collapsing dragon. It's supposed to collapse. If it didn't collapse this bar, it better collapse next bar or something else is going on. So we have to be able to look at the shelf life of that move. Otherwise, it's just going to grind and recover. So I would say that's the kind of mindset that it's got to have. Now, go down. Now start at the third yellow dot. Go south to the MACD. Now, if I were to describe that the Red River is already compressing and rising. So the painful sell-off was the leg 1, and that made the Red River get really wide. And then where you got the yellow dot on the Red River, go to the left.
Sorry. Yellow dot.
No, left.
Left.
Yeah,
Okay.
left. The yellow dot on the Red River, leg 1 was over, and it is now starting the spring. So I can actually be. So what that means is if there's going to be a second leg down, that thing is supposed to just collapse. And it already had one chance to collapse at the first yellow dot.
Yeah.
That's where that thing is supposed to fail. That it is supposed to fail right there, and it hardly failed at all. It dipped a little bit into the red, and then it went right back into the spring. That's actually, so if I try it on the second time, it better fail right now, otherwise I'm buying.
Yeah. Right.
That's how to interpret that.
Okay. Yeah. Great.
And remember, that's sort of like, so yeah, this is just sort of the normal schizophrenia that you get on intraday trading. That's just normal schizophrenia. But if this was a swing trade, you'd change your mind in 2 or 3 bars anyway. But in swing trading, that would be 2 or 3 days.
Yeah.
Or if you were trading the 30-minute chart, that would be an hour and a half. So the 3-minute bars requires you to almost be schizophrenic in the matter of about 10 minutes. That's just part of that comes with the territory. So that's what I wanted to say about that chart.
What
And
would you say about this then? Because this is where I always get
same thing. So what's the OR3 is the green bar. OR3. I'm short
Yeah.
on the second bar when it goes below the low of the first bar. Short and hopefully scratch.
Okay. Yeah.
And then long and hopefully scratch. Short at the when it enters
Right.
the dragon or probably short right around in there. And then I maybe make a little money. Now go east. Long. Right there.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Right
because
there.
that's the flip. Yeah.
Because that's a caught a 2 on the dragon.
Yep.
Bang. Right away.
Yep.
So what I want you to notice is it had 10 bars where it could not close the gap. Go west.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. See, it's supposed to go down and go where, see yesterday's close?
Yeah. That one.
It's supposed to go down there. It did not. It had 10 bars. And now when the dragon turns and PSAR flips,
Yeah.
bang, long. Well,
That's
right
it.
there.
Yep. Card 2.
Now hold it. Now hold it until the RL10 hits the dragon. Go north. Yeah.
Yeah.
And exit.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
lather, rinse, repeat.
Would you go short here?
Probably.
And they'll probably scratch.
And then scratch. Maybe I get a little taste. On that one, if I get short where your red dot is,
Yeah.
or the PSAR flip, now I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bars in my direction. It's pushing the edge of the river and then stalls. Now it goes up and hits the dragon, exit at the edge of the dragon. Bing, right there. And
Okay.
I got a snack. And now that's a
Okay.
kata 2. I go long where it leaves the dragon.
Yeah,
And then that one probably scratches and it feels like, yeah, that's pretty much done for the day.
Okay.
Microsoft large cap behavior and lunchtime.
Yeah, thanks, Ken. That's awesome. It's there's a lot in there, and I can follow all of that, and I think I might have had those, not all of them, but like
Yeah.
70% of
So what I want
said.
you to do is I want you to watch those the 30-minute portfolio management I do at the opening 10 minutes of every nightly podcast.
Yeah, I do,
I'm
yeah.
trading that style, but on a 30-minute bar, but the decisions are the same.
Mhm.
Those could be 3-minute bars for all we know. And I make the same decisions on 3-minute bars as I do on the but what I'm doing on the 30-minute bars is I can look at 30 symbols. Whereas if I'm on a 3-minute bar, my
Yeah.
span of control is about 2 or 3 things.
Yeah,
Where you
I-
run into problem is if you're trying to do 3-minute bars but manage 30 symbols. Hard. But 30-minute bars, I can evaluate 30 charts in 2 minutes. Because I can see the context and it's either getting close or it ain't. So it only takes a couple seconds to see where it is in the life cycle of critical states. So I can manage those 30 symbols on the 30-minute bars fairly easily, and then drill down to the 3-minute if it looks interesting. And that's kind of the trade-off between span of control and frequency of trading. But then I only try to find a couple symbols intraday to do the 3 minutes on. Just the ones that are ready to crack, and it cracked, and there it goes. And then it's over in 30 minutes. Just in time to go back through the whole other stack.
How do you find those, Ken?
It's the
Because
same 30 symbols every day for the last year.
No, sorry about the 3-minute. How do you know which ones are gonna? Are you also watching the same 30?
Yeah,
symbols?
on the left-hand side of my chart is all 30 symbols and where they are in the percent performance. And you set that, and you use TC2000 alerts. And I put what MACD histogram season is it in?
Right.
Oh, it's at the bottom of the stack, and it's in the winter. Jesus Christ, I better be short that. Hey, it's in the red at the bottom of the stack, and it just turned to spring. I better go look at that. Every change in MACD season is an alert.
Okay.
So I just have all 30 symbols in that watch list with an alert geared to MACD histogram seasonal change. Hey, guess what the exit looks like? Oh, it's near the top of the stack. It was in the summertime and it just went into fall. Done. Click, alert, sniper exit. Done. That's all.
That's yeah.
And then on the right hand side, I got about 8 to 10 thumbnails of symbols that are in the critical states. Out of the 30, I have 8 or 10. One of them is always the S&P, one of them is always the VIX, one of them is always the small caps, one of them is always Alcoa and Tesla, and the other 5 are whichever things are in approaching a critical state or I'm managing.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
I think how we monitor things. I mean, the process, the way it's it's really important. And what you described is actually a big edge with the MACD
Oh
and
man, yeah.
the watch list at the MACD. I don't have that. I'm not making excuses. So
But you got. I mean,
know.
what you have is the MACD and the Four Seasons down there on your indicator sheet already, and then
I have to go through every chart to see
Yeah.
that.
Let
And then
me,
it slows you down. You see, then if I have 30, and I do have 30 on sometimes even more, and I organize mine in percentage moves. That works to a certain extent. It tells you what the big movers are, but then you miss the ones that are kind of steadily growing. It just does a
yeah.
gap open.
So you need
miss
you
the
need enough
top.
screen. Hey, you need enough screen space
Yeah,
for 3 categories of information. The stack of 30 is very narrow. Then I need, I don't care, 5 to 10 thumbnails so you can confirm
yeah,
the price, and then one tactical screen or whatever your span of control is for execution.
yeah.
Whether that's 2 monitors or one giant, I got a 40-inch screen. I can fit all that on one screen.
Awesome.
You know,
Yeah,
and then it's like target shit. It's strategy, operations, tactics, broad view, so I don't miss anything. The ones that are cooking and are getting ready to be in a critical state, and then the one I'm actually working on, or the
yeah.
up
Awesome.
to 4. And I'd rather just be working on 1 or 2 than 4. But 4 is my maximum on a 3-minute bar. And if I'm tracking 4, man, I'm working way too hard. I can't wait to get out of 2 of them and then put that money on the 2 that are really working. And then put that money on the one that's really, really working. So
Yeah, I
30,
can do one
yeah,
or two probably is max for me, depending on how the trade is
yeah,
going. If it's going
yeah,
your way, okay, you can sit back and
yeah.
wu wei
So
exit,
I
and that's
might
fine.
pick, if I was you, I might pick 10, 4, and 1.
Mhm.
10 in my stack, 4 on the thumbnails where you're watching the MACD history. You actually don't even have to have the price on it. I mean, you could if you wanted,
Mhm.
but you could just make it the 4 MACDs.
Yeah, that's
And
true
then the
too.
tactical screen that has the RL10 and all that stuff.
Yeah,
The RL10 and the Dragon. So
awesome. Hey, thank you.
dashboarding. That's the
And
theory of dashboarding. All right, let's hit the
yeah,
tone. That feels like quite enough
I
from
hope
you all day. That's
that's
quite
okay. I
enough from me.
hope. Sorry, the others.
Yeah. All right,
Let's
here we
see.
go. And Jeffrey, what do you got for us?
Hey guys, can you hear me all right?
Yep, loud and clear.
Yeah, I'm struggling with the light. Like I'm in a hotel room that has no overhead lighting. It only has lamps.
Oh,
So nice, uncomfortable chair, hotel room style. But anyway, yeah, I like this lesson. Oops, pardon me. Put my note card off. Yeah, the thought that I had was this is why I'm here. High performance creativity is the reason I'm here. I want practical applications for what I learn. And I really like the story of Tenzing Norgay. I'm a sucker for good stories anyway, but when they have life lessons and interesting facts in them, that makes them even better. What an accomplishment for that guy who's actually representing his entire nation. His accomplishments have changed his country. That's pretty interesting. I'm working through a professional assessment of my own beliefs and skills and indicators and all that stuff using first principles. That's been something I've spent a lot of time on the last 2 weeks. And then my own flashcard of this week is can fail fast, fail forward, fail often, fail by design, fail in order to learn. And I actually had this idea that what if I was the best? What if I learned to be the best at failing ever? That's like your defense. If your opponent hits you with everything they have and you just won't fall down and you don't react the way they think, that's probably a huge edge in life. And I never really thought about that. In the Western world, we think about offense and succeeding and everything. So I'm trying to think about the other side of the coin, which would be your defense, but also system testing and testing ideas in life. It's got a lot of applications. My most important things have arisen out of the work that I've been doing the last 2 or 3 months, and they were a pretty big revelation. But the crazy thing is they weren't what I wanted them to be. So what do you do when the data tells you something you don't want to hear? You just got to accept it and get to work, I think. But for me, my most important thing, if I want to be a high performance human, a high performance trader, a high performance pilot, a high performance whatever, the data says you need to sleep every night, an appropriate amount of high quality sleep. So that's number one. I think my team likes the idea of me getting a good night's sleep, come to work. It's just easier to deal with what happens in the day. Your brain works better. Your energy levels are higher. And an interesting fact that came out is that humans are the only species on the planet that intentionally sleep deprive themselves. And the downstream costs of doing that are too high for anybody to pay. So that was interesting. Healthy diet, sunlight, fresh air, and exercise. The data says anything that's good for the body is good for the mind. So if you're wanting to be a high performance thinker, it's just the same. It's all just as important. And one thing I've noticed is you need to be wary or beware of success. So all the young guys come to work every morning, they start with PT. All the experienced guys who have higher positions and more responsibilities start with gathering intel and data for briefings and all the rest of that stuff, right? So by the nature of my success puts me in a chair when I really should be out there doing PT with the young guys, right? So I just have to get that in before work. That's the only answer for that. I focused on the trader's exercise. I did a lot of work on the other 2 exercises, but I didn't, I thought I wanted to talk about the trader's exercise today. But one interesting thing about intentionally disassociating, that probably works in an office setting, but we beat that out of our people on our teams and in firefighting or combat. That's what happens when people reach stress overload. They disassociate. And it's a death sentence, So there's 2 perspectives there. It works probably pretty good if you do it in a controlled setting. But during the action, and even as a trader, I think you have to guard against this because we talk about fight or flight, but there's a third component there that nobody talks about, which is what happens most of the time. Most humans just freeze. They disassociate and they stop, they disengage. And so that's something to be aware of. What I wanted to talk about was the trader's exercise. It speaks directly to my own bias, which is the idea that I've had and I still have, and I'll show you an example, that once I know where my stop must be, I should be in the trade. The idea, and Ken just talked about this, so Ken either's reading my mind or he's got a spy in my organization. I'll have to check that out. But the idea of getting into a move early, whether it's the P1, the 1, 2, 3, or the SSC, gives you the highest risk reward and also the highest uncertainty. And those things I think are correlated, because the more the move you wait to see for confirmation, the less of the move is available for reward. And then there's obviously trade-offs there, and probably a trade-off between win rate and expectancy. You know, I've had this thought that maybe if I continue to get in early, I'll have more of those trades fail. But I have I'm position sized properly, my stops in place, so maybe I want to fail by design, right? I know about half my trades are going to fail probably, so maybe we just fail by design. Maybe I get in early. I'm aware of the probabilities, and I intend for that to be my failed trade, right? And the ones that work surprise you. So what are the time frame trade-offs? I have a trade here I'll share with you in a minute. And I think it's opportunity, a number of opportunities per day, per week, per session, or whatever. And then what does the data say? So I'm doing some higher time frame trading. I need to collect data on that. I am going to do some back testing, but I really like the forward trading data. But the problem is it takes a long time to get that. On a daily chart, it takes a lot longer to do 30 trades from beginning to end than it does on a 3-minute chart. So I have Ken's slide here that he included in the lesson. Definitely going to become one of my own flashcards. And if I could share my screen, I'll just share this trade that I've been messing with for a couple of weeks. Can you guys see this document? Do you guys see this, my screen?
I can see it, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I can't see you guys because I'm on a small laptop, so I had to minimize that. So going with what I was talking about, this just happened to line up with this lesson because I actually started this trade back in August. So this is a dish swing trade, and I have other reasons to want to be interested in this symbol specifically, and I won't get into that. But on the execution, I'm back on my natural time frame, which is basically a daily bar, especially during the summertime when I'm working like I am now. And then I like to stalk my entries and sometimes my exits on the hourly chart. So this is kind of my own personal style of trading. But I actually entered, I'll zoom into the daily chart. We definitely had a harsh move on the daily chart and the hourly chart. So I entered at the first green dot. I held it 3 days. This was a Friday. I scratched this trade because I gave it 2 days after the day of entry. There were 2 additional days to show me something, and it didn't. And on Friday morning, it opened and rejected from the dragon and started to fail. So I just scratched the trade. It closed poorly on Friday. The following Monday, actually, this was Tuesday. There was a 3-day weekend here. And the main point is I had already seen the R10 turn, and I saw this $6 level was super important. It had been successfully defended before. So on Tuesday, it opened, traded below the prior week's range, and was immediately bought up. So I got back in at a slightly better price. It was actually $5.99, and I've been in that trade ever since. And you can see the reason I got in the first time is we had an SSC with the P-Star flip, RLXD. So I got in, scratched the trade. The second trade was more of a MMRB off the bottom on the lower time frame, and I've been holding it ever since. The red line is my stop, which is at no lose plus dinner for 2. Had I been watching this on an hourly chart, I probably would have taken the sniper exit on Friday, but I wasn't watching it. I was working, and it's framed on the higher time frame chart. So one of the things I've noticed in the last 700 intraday trades is this sniper exit feels so good to me. I love it. You know, that would have been 4.5 hour for me, but I missed the next 15 hour because I don't re-enter. So this chart was framed on the daily time frame, and that's kind of where I'm managing it at. And my first profit target is $8. I actually think it has the chance to go higher than that, but we don't know. So for now, my stop is at no lose plus dinner for 2, simply because I want to give it a chance to work. We're back to the mean on the daily chart. It could consolidate there for some time. We're either going to eventually see a CATA 2 long, which I would be interested in adding another position there, or if it's a CATA 2 short, then I'll have to exit the trade. But I've been in this thing off and on for 3 weeks now. So it's taught me a lot about patience, discipline, and perspective, because this is the opposite of what I was doing on the 3-minute chart. And the perspective and discipline are the fact that I know that Ken enters after me in here with a smaller MMRB on a slower time frame, and he gets 8R to the upside, and then he's stopping reverses, and he gets a couple R to the downside. I think he's still short now. But that really has nothing to do with my trade because I framed it on the daily time frame, and I'm managing the trade that I'm in and not the trade that I wish that I was in. And I had this idea a couple of weeks ago, maybe a month ago, that maybe I'm focusing in the wrong place. That's when I was doing the work of, you know, it said, get some sleep, eat better, exercise. Don't sit in your office chair all day if you want to be a high performance human. So if it's mental combat, maybe I shouldn't be practicing push-ups. And that was just maybe a bad analogy for me to do the most important thing first and know what that is for me. So my work in progress on the first principles thinking, or just analyzing what I'm doing and why. I had over 100 questions that I've been answering for myself. And I shared this last week with the accountability group, actually 2 weeks ago, I guess. And on the spur of the moment, I just decided to share my questions with them just for perspective and insight. I thought it'd be good for them to know what I was doing. So I sent them 15 questions just because that's what fit on one page. Some of them have answered my questions and sent the answers back to me. And the insights and perspective have far exceeded anything that I expected to get out of it. This is just kind of a couple of things about first principle thinking. To me, it's just a fancy way to say that I'm checking and testing all of my own assumptions. And Dan had the idea of running them through ChatGPT. And I didn't see the value in this at first, because to me, it's personal work that each of us have to do. But it actually provided even more insight and perspective. And there was value there that I didn't see until Dan did that and shared the results with me. But this is ChatGPT's closing comment to not to my questions, but to the idea of the questions, because Dan just copied my page into ChatGPT and gave it a couple of prompts and it came out with it. But so ChatGPT closed its response with, it seems like a wonderful initiative to gather responses and share with your group. Remember, while the principles from experts like Dr. Tharp and Ken Long provide invaluable insights, it's crucial to internalize the lessons and adapt them to your unique trading journey. So that's still a work in progress for me, and actually several other people have joined me on that, and we'll just keep doing that work. One of the things I've thought about in the last month or two is, and I've talked about this, how to integrate what I've learned or what I might have learned or think I've learned in the last 3 or 4 or 5 months in creativity and trading, how to integrate that into my daily routine. And part of it speaks to what Ken talked about earlier. So I have all these tools in my bag, but they're not all equal. So I have to prioritize them and find out what they do for me and how well they do it. And what I came up with was the trade frame is the most valuable thing. And the reason I believe that is because that's what establishes the math of the trade. In this case, I've framed about a 10-hour trade here on the daily chart. So once I have my MMRB and I have my stop set and I have the frame, that's the math of the trade. And that's also something that doesn't change when you scale your time frame from a 1-minute chart to a weekly chart. That trade frame and that entry and that exit never change, but all the other indicators change. So I'm trying to figure out what do I give the most weight to and what do I pay the most attention to? And I think it's my trade frame, because looking back at 700 intraday trades that I took, I have the data on the trades that I took, but I can't gather data on the trades that I didn't take. But there were so many trades that I framed, and I took a successful trade or an unsuccessful trade on that trade frame, and then I moved on to another symbol or something. And when you look back at it, it was a 10 or 20-hour trade that I didn't participate in because I didn't have the patience and discipline to stick with that trade frame. So, Aho, I think that's all I have for you guys today. I really enjoyed your talk, Kuhn, and Ken, I'm going to go back and listen to your Foundations replay multiple times probably. I think there was a lot of gold in there.
Yeah. Yeah, let me hit, let's see, share screen. Yeah, just as a point of reference, this is that Dish Network trade on the 30 minutes, and you can see that was the big sell-off that kind of stabilized, and the first kind of intraday Kata 2 was this one. I tried that short. This was a 1-2-3 speculation a couple days ago. It closed well. And then, let's see, Thursday was an emerging dragon. It had cleared that entire hump, and I was already 2R in hand. So that just felt natural and easy. And that closed really well. And I was like, well, I have a little bit of room for it now. Then the next day it opened here and then rolled over. And that was a natural exit. And then somewhere in there I got a fill on a short. I said, let me just try an intraday short. And then the bottom fell out of it. Mm-hmm. I said, well, I've made some money on this thing already. Let me just hold that one for one more day on Monday, because Dish turns out to be one of those gappy stock symbols. And I already had some markets money in there to give it one more. So what I'll do on Monday is watch for, if it gaps down and then starts to stabilize north of my entries back here, then that just feels like that's all there was, and I'll be ready to exit that thing, the swing, Monday morning. And then lather, rinse, repeat. And now it looks like this thing is in play for sure, and the channel is the bottom of this RL10 here at like 599, and the top is up here at 699. So that's a 20% channel in Dish. So I want to be an intraday 30-minute trader on that thing. So that's kind of how that works. And then for Kyun, this is where is my standard setup? The auto framer. I'm looking for my. Why is it that showing? The one where I have my. There it is. So this is the one I use on the broad one for the swings. where I just have the MACD histogram alerts, and when I reduce that to the my little swings, the first two columns are monthly spring and monthly summer. So the ones that are in the best long-term condition, U.S. Steel, Caterpillar, Microsoft, NVIDIA, and Microsoft is also on a daily spring. So if I look at the daily charts, it's actually in pretty good shape. But I can use that one to get my quick alerts, and then maybe I might configure that TC2000. This is a screen where I'm looking at one symbol, Ethereum, but on 3 time frames: 9-day, daily, and 30-minute. So almost like the tactical. In this case, I'm using the 30-minute as the tactical, but I might just as easily put that on 3-minute for a tactical screen. So I can use a combination of broad filters using MACD, some tactical setups, and then there's setups where you can make like multiple, put 8 or 10 thumbnails on there and just configure. So I find TC2000 very easy to configure, and that's basically how I'm using that. All right, that's we're 90 minutes into this one. Let's go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and hit the tones. Ask you to think about your word for the week, and then we'll close up shop here. So here we go. Listening for your word for the week. Jeffrey.
My word is breathe.
Kyun.
Insights.
And Greg.
Endurance.
There's Doodle. All right, fellas, you take good care. We shall see you on down the road, and be safe, be healthy, be happy. Ciao for now.
Thanks again. Thanks all.
Thanks, guys.